Hello cellists, here we are again and we are looking at the Bach Gigue, and today we will be looking at the next phrase in the second section. We'll also be looking at the next phrase in the Feuillard study of the week, which is number 22. But before then we've got some technical digests. So I'd like to begin with a little bow exercise, and this is obviously bears a relevance to both the Gigue and the study, and is part of your toolkit as a cellist. And it's about bow pinches, where we're focusing on the first and fourth finger of the right hand. A down bow is really driven by the first finger, and an up bow by the little finger. Now we've already seen this in Bach. So yesterday we had down bow pinches with a rebound slur. Later we will be looking at the converse to that, which will be a slur and then an up bow pinch. So it's my little fingers doing the work there for the up bow. And in the first section we've already had a down and two ups, which is all driven by down, up, up. That's where the strength and power is really coming, so you can bite the string. So in terms of making an exercise to practice that, the one that you really need to practice is the little finger, because you've got a quite strong first finger and you're probably quite used to holding down good strong down bows with the index finger. You know, it's a very strong finger. So let's focus on the little finger, and my suggestion is you start at the point, flat bow hair on the D string, and we're going to be doing lots of little sequential ups like this, and all the while the most driven part of this is the little finger. There's quite minimal arm movement, and in order to be sure that it really is the little finger that's working and not your arm trying to drive things along like this, you could try this little practice exercise. And that is to put the bow in the middle of the bow, and then with your left hand just touch the wrist and say to yourself, you're not allowed to move your arm from the wrist up through to the shoulder, and start with an up bow and then a down. So up bow using the little finger and then a down with it first. So you can see my arm isn't moving at all, it's just my hand and fingers. So that can be a way to be sure that you are using the right part of your arm, which is the fingers more than the arm. So to recap, we have this. Now those are quite long strokes in that they have a bit of a bite at the beginning, and then I let go of the pressure so that you get a nice sound envelope at the end of the notes, which are quite pleasing. But do feel free to just push the boundaries a bit and stay on the string with a true bite. It's very gritty. But you then really feel the friction, and you absolutely have the power and strength in these fingers. It's very, you can really feel it if you do that. So there's your bow challenge. Now on to the left hand. We've got coming up a modulation to G minor in the Gigue, which is fairly unusual to go to the tonic minor. So it's a good opportunity to do G minor scale, and I think probably harmonic. So in that scale, of course, we're looking at B flats and D flats and F sharps. There we are. I'm just going to draw your attention to that. B flat, and particularly the F sharp and the D, they're all involved. Yeah, they're the notes of our augmented triad that we looked at yesterday. They're sitting hidden inside G minor, the scale. Now those of you who'd like to take up the gauntlet, let's learn the whole tone scale that is actually related to that augmented triad I gave you. So in the augmented triad we observed that the left hand does a kind of crab crawl back to front from what we normally do for diminished. Diminished go this way and back again, and the augmented go slightly the other way round to what you're expecting it to do from the diminished. Whole tone scale. So it starts on a D, and the best way to imagine it is in two parts. Imagine you're beginning D major. All good. Now a whole tone away from F sharp, which I've just arrived at, would be G sharp. But think of it as an A flat. I move to an A flat, now begin A flat major. And then I'm choosing a stopped note, a solution here. I'm avoiding open strings at the moment so you can feel the pattern. So go to a D with a 1, back to an A flat, back to a D, and that's it. Here's your whole tone scale. There are only 6 notes in each octave. You could, if you prefer, or once you're familiar with the sound, having given your hand an easy ride, but basically each half of the scale, if you just do 1, stretch 2, 4, you've got it. But of course we could use an open D, in which case you could do this. Great. I hope you enjoy that. Have a go. Right, let's move on. We're doing Feuillard's 22nd study, and we've just got to bar 17. And we're just doing a few bars along here, and these are lovely. They're broken chords, which we have come across in Bach as well, and it's all about sort of knowing chordal structures on the cello and getting good hand shape and good strength of the left hand so that it's an easier life for the bow. So the first of these chords is B minor, and what I suggest in terms of these bars is actually practice as a whole bar, the chord for the whole bar, rather than a note at a time. So there we've got these 3 notes, so B minor. Then next we put a barred second finger down and just first finger on the B, and we have got G major. Then we add a third finger. Guess what that is? It's an augmented triad. Yes, everywhere. The next chord is C major, and we're barring the second finger, putting down the fourth. And then we're going to go to A7. This is a third finger on the C sharp. Now if I were to leave my second finger barred across and try and put down the third, the problem is that in the hand shape, from having a good barring here where the hand is low and can get both notes, the moment that you stretch your third finger across, you're going to lose the contact on the D string with that part of the finger. So it really doesn't quite work in this instance, and you're going to need to put the tip of the finger back on to the G there. It'll seem more clear when you look at the notes on the page there. So that was bar 21, and then we finally will bar the fourth finger, and there we are, coming out of it. So fairly straightforward. We have then, as I recap, B minor, G major, augmented, C major, go on the tips for A7 and A, and that's the very last bit of the resolution goes into D major. Okay, that's it. Left hand is ready. Now we're going to add the bow pattern that we've been using all week, and just observe that when we are playing these chords linearly, are there any other alterations we need to make about the preparation of the hand? Let's find out. So we begin as we did with the chordal version. We bar whilst we're on the B. Add 3. Bar 2. Add 3. Go to point. Bar 4. Well, I hope you caught that. You can rewind it and try it again if you didn't catch it. So in terms of the bow pattern at this point in the piece, starting down or up seems of negligible difference really. compared to earlier in the piece, because at this point we've got 1 bar sequences, whereas previously we had 2 bar sequences. However, is there something in it? Because if you listen to where it's going, it's definitely moving to the C after that augmented chord. That is the peak, and as it stands we're arriving at that on an up bow. So in actual fact it does make a difference, because if you were to go the other way around, you know, there's this real sense we can have power and energy at the real or the harmonic climax in this short phrase. So let's just try it first as it's written. We start on a down. It's fine, but let's just now start on an up. Tiny mini slip at the end there. So that last part of the phrase we would have been on up here. Some sort of instinct wanting to move into a down bow. Try it and see. Both ways are useful and good for us. They won't feel hugely different, other than the fact that you can get a bit more shaping if you start on an up, which has been the case throughout this study. Right, let's get on with the next bit of the jig. So yesterday we got to the E minor cadence bar 20, and we're continuing from here. At this point we've got 2 voices on the go. This is really charming. We have, and then the other voice, and then the lower voice, upper, lower, upper, and really the upper voice kind of holds the end of the sentence there. Now, of course, it's a perfect moment to think about a dynamic and articulate way of distinguishing them. I think here for the lower voice we definitely have a lift and a arrival, like we have at the opening. So we have. Now, I personally prefer to arrive and lift on this top note rather than a clip. I think you could probably do either, and perhaps the clipped one would be a little bit more dancey. Let's just try it both ways. So that's the clipped short version, so the arrival is the point of pitch. Now if instead we arrive and then lift, it's a slightly more subtle dance. Barely audible. Maybe if I just try that a little bit slower. So we have pinch, arrival, and then lift. So that the is you arrive and then lift, and then you can pinch, arrive and lift, pinch. There's something really rather charming about this little mixture. From the dynamic point of view, you can really make either way convincing. So we could have the lower voice loud and the upper one quiet. Let's try that. Where basically the upper voice decides to make themselves more heard and they get a little crescendo at the end there. Or we could do it the other way around. We could have quiet and loud. Where the upper voice is remaining quite dominant all the way through, and more so when it gets to bar 24. So there's a couple of ideas that you could explore and see which one you feel you're more comfortable with or find more convincing musically. Now where we've arrived, a nice firm solid dominant D, and then it's a magic moment. We're about to just go not into a G major resolution. No, he's going to the tonic minor, G minor. So this is Absolutely the same material as we actually had in the first section at bar 9 onwards. Just looking at the way he went into it previously. Previously we had a different kind of cadence type. So it's a far more of a full stop cadence and then a new breath for the minor phrase. Whereas this one I think is more as if we could tumble into it. You know, it's a little bit more on the move through there. And as we did before, it's quite nice to sort of explore more of a legato articulation when we've come to this minor version. And you can do this right from the upbeat if you like. Or you could have a little lift at the beginning. And I think either could work. The lift version kind of sort of holds on to something that you've had in the lifts before it. So where we've had these lift strokes, it's got something very similar with that, so it could really be a nice connection. Or you can decide to go straight into the on the string version. So we have, and I think either can work, and perhaps you do one the first time and the other on the repeat, which is always a good idea if you can't decide between two that you quite like. Last word on articulation. When we end this phrase, now if I wasn't going on, I'm just stopping there. It's quite convenient to just stop in a very graceful way on that G. However, it won't be graceful because it's also a turning point note where we're about to turn a complete corner to a new phrase, which we'll be uncovering that final phrase on the next lesson. But therefore, this last G won't be so smooth, but rather little glimpse ahead, because it's turning into something else. So it's actually a wonderful moment to kind of like really be a bit cheeky. It's not only cheeky because we're adding an articulation that sort of says, oh, we're preempting the next sentence, but also because he does that cunning trick of immediately turning it into G major. We've had this. He's now decided, aha, no, I haven't really gone from home. I'm still in G major. So in a way, that kind of tongue-in-cheek is actually already in the manuscript harmonically. So let's bring it out by articulation. So for this little phrase for this lesson, we have from bar 1920, where we began. And we'll get the rest of that tomorrow. One other comment about that is the ways that I've demonstrated the minor phrase. You can either keep it all with the lid on, and then you'll start building up, or you can crescendo through it. So you could do either of those, and again it's something that one could be for the first time round and one could be for the repeat, and you decide which one is the most sort of surprising one, and I would say keep that one for the second time round. Enjoy your explorations, and I shall see you soon.